Hello world, welcome to the 274th Climate Change Emergency Protest here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'm here next to my dog Jenny. She has been with us for 13 years and 5 months. She's over 110 pounds, so she's ancient for a dog this big. She's been a really good girl and used to run 5 miles at a time with her, no problem, but I think her time at coming to the Rainbow Bridge is short at hand here. So it's a bittersweet time looking back. So presently, the carbon dioxide level is 426.5. No, that's the record. 426.5 parts per million. That was on February 10th. Now it's at 425.2. So it's been going up and down, but at an ever increasing rate, and it'll keep increasing until May of this year, 2024, and then it'll start going down when the photosynthesis kicks in. El Nino right now persists, and they think that it'll probably go until April or so. Then it'll go to neutral state, and then it'll become La Nina. In July, it'll become full La Nina probably, and that'll be right at the beginning of hurricane season, which is a bad thing. So right now we got two phases of the year that are coming our way. You have the El Nino situation right now, and that causes deluges and different things as is happening in California. And we'll know when El Nino is ending. My theory is that the atmospheric rivers will stop or slow down that are persisting and hammering California. It's been about 25 of them since last year. And they've had 12 inches of rain in the last, I don't know how long, in the last week or so in California, which is unfathomable. You'll know when El Nino's kick or has left. Basically, the drought will start up again in the west, and it'll spread throughout the whole USA along the southern tier and all. There's more water vapor in the atmosphere because of more heat in the atmosphere. We've had temperatures now of gone above 1.5 degrees Celsius for the whole globe for all of 2020, for the last year, for the last 12 months, 13 months. It's been above 1.5 on average degrees Celsius. And United Nations and the COP21 said that they wanted to hold everything under 1.5 degrees. Well, we've exceeded that. It'll dip below it after El Nino's over, and then basically the floor is coming up and up and up, and eventually all of our temperatures consistently all the time from now on throughout the rest of our lives will be above 1.5 degrees Celsius, above the 1880 baseline. So when El Nino ends, the wind shear will slow down and stop, and we're going to end up with more hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico. And my guess is they'll probably barrel through the lower gap between Puerto Rico and South America and start hammering Louisiana and Texas more rapidly than they have in the past few years. So batten down your hatches if you're over there in that area. And then what will happen is the real hellscape for the Earth starts up when you start transitioning over and becomes La Nina again. Everything you can remember from 3 years ago will happen again, except it'll probably be much worse. It's hard to come up with a model as to what's going to happen, but given the temperatures and given the lack of concern and effort by the world concerning carbon dioxide, we're in for a hellscape what's coming. And this will be the rest of our lives. This is not going to abate unless there's a change, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So we can expect following weather events and other events as well. See, I'm concerned about earthquakes in California and Washington State because what has happened is so much rainwater has saturated the ground and will percolate down into the slip faults that I'm concerned that the gypsum or whatever that rock level is going to become lubricated, and we're going to have a slip fault, and there's potential for a massive earthquake in California and Washington. Two different fault lines. One is the San Andreas with other faults, as well as the Cascadia fault up towards Washington. So the Cascadia one will be they're both going to be devastating in their own way. Each one is different as to whether you have tsunamis, Cascadia, and potential volcanic eruption, or you have the San Andreas fault, which is utter destruction up and down the California coast, all the way from San Diego up through San Francisco and then off the coast. You have the Helena slump. I think it's called the Great Crack as well as in Hawaii. That has potential of sliding off into the ocean, and it will eventually. Whether it happens now or 500 years from now, who knows? When it happens, they think it's going to be create a 1,000-foot tidal wave that would hit the west coast of the United States. You have the Cumbre Viejo volcano, also in the Canary Islands. It has the same potential slip off of a volcano that when that one slides in the ocean, the tsunami wave that would hit there, instead of being 1,000 feet, will probably only be about 300 feet, hitting Miami and such, but it'll roll inland like 10 miles because it's so flat there. Big concern for me for 2024 is the bee pollinators, the potential collapse for that. We're losing our pollinators all over the place. Last year we saw maybe 3 honeybees around our yard, and we do not poison the yard. We have flowers and everything, and we saw very few honeybees at all. So we're having a massive collapse of that. The potential for hurricanes then with the La Nina coming is the wind shear slows down or stops, and there's so much heat off of the, I think they call it the AMDR, Atlantic Main Development Region, off the coast of Africa right now. The waters are 80 degrees, 85 degrees into the Atlantic Ocean. This is like, equal to what you'd expect in June or July at the top of hurricane season. So it's very, very warm there. It's hard to predict whether it will continue, but indications are the potentiality there is for Category 5 hurricanes. And who knows if there ever be a Category 6. It's what very well could occur. The problem with the big hurricanes is that they tend to blow themselves apart. But if there's no wind shear and everything holds together and they're allowed to develop without being affected by wind shear and things like that, or winds, there's a potential for a Category 6, and that would be off the charts as far as we know. The AMOC shutdown is a real concern right now. The theory is that there's going to be a shutdown of the current that goes up and towards Europe, pulls warmer waters up towards Europe and all. And if that shuts down, then it affects the whole globe simultaneously because, or not simultaneously, but at different rates around the whole globe. But on the east coast of the United States, you end up with sea level rise, all sorts of weather events happening up in northern Europe. The day after said about the movie said that it'd be giant ice, occurring overnight. Well, that won't happen overnight, but it could happen fairly quickly if that holds true. The problem, the wild card factor, is that the carbon dioxide level is so high, and whether that would actually happen is up for grabs, because by then all the Arctic ice is gone at that point if things persist the way they are. And would you really have an ice situation develop? I don't know. I'm thinking that it's just going to be warmer than normal, not colder slightly, but you're going to have massive heat in the tropics, because if the AMOC shuts down the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, that the oceans cannot vent off the heat from the equator to the North Pole area or the South Pole area, and you have a massive buildup of heat. So you got the Mediterranean region gets cooked out, as does the Arab nations. Central America gets cooked out, and what you're going to look at is massive amount of migration, and Pakistan, India, places like that. Yeah, massive amounts of migration, Bangladesh, and what do the people do when they get to the borders of these different nations that are arbitrarily drawn? I mean, if you look from space, there is no such thing as a border, but we have drawn these lines, these arbitrary lines, and do you shoot the people at the border? Do you let them in? Do you have chaos? You have cultural differences, social collapse, government collapses, all sorts of stuff. And that's one of the things at our border right now, the United States and Mexico border. We have a lot of people coming up from Central America and South America and Mexico, and why are they coming here? That's the question. That's what the press does not ask. They're covering about the Chinese at the border, which jumped from 600 a year to 6,000. But we're having tens of thousands of people coming out from Central and South America and Southern Mexico and whatnot to come towards the United States for a better life, because it's not working for them. Either you have these gangs, these roving gangs down there, or political unrest, just killing people indiscriminately for their stuff, or you're having a situation where it's untenable, that you can no longer farm there, you can no longer live there, your children are suffering. There's been documentaries on children that are 12, 14 years old, and they look like an 8-year-old that would be here in the United States. So they're suffering immensely. So that was it for the weather events. You also have the danger of permafrost and methane hydrates erupting out of the Atlantic and down, I suspect, down in Antarctica too. Because I'm thinking that at one point in time, that area was a lush jungle and everything, and no longer is. So all that organic matter is now in the soil, and that could unleash a lot of methane into the atmosphere. Methane can be 160 times more potent as a greenhouse gas first 2 years to 80 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide over the course of time. Over 20 years, it's down to 20 times more potent as a greenhouse gas. So all sorts of things can happen coming up in 2024. And I got to talk about the leaders in a second. And it's all linked, all this political stuff and all this climate change stuff. The problem is our leaders are in charge of our lives rather than we controlling our own lives. So what they dictate, and the term dictate is an absolute truism anymore, what they're dictating is a sentence to our death through ecocide. In other words, things are about to dramatically change in nature, and there's not one damn thing you can do about it. All you can do is try to mitigate and adapt, and then try to get back to where we were. But that's not going to happen because there's no push. People, you're listening to me, but your friends and family aren't. They don't want to. They don't want to hear it. I encounter the same things, and there's no real conversations, and it's to our own detriment and death this is going to occur. And even then, as we're dying, we won't realize, most of the people won't realize why this is happening, and that's a shame. You deserve to know what's going on, and you need to know what's going on, and you need to do your best, do the right thing to save your child's life, your friend's life, your neighbor's, anyone's life, and life on Earth in general. And that's where we're headed. Whether we're going to wipe out all life on Earth or not, I don't know. So right now, USA, what's it right here? Oh yeah, USA in 2023 was #1 producer of oil and gas ever in the history of any country. More than Saudi Arabia, more than any other country has produced oil and gas. The United States, under Joe Biden, the climate change president, produced more oil and natural gas than any country in its history. He also authorized 6,000 permits in his first 2 years on drilling on federal land, which he said he was not going to issue a single one. He lied. And also 3 auctions in the Gulf of Mexico for 80 million acres, which he said he would not do. He lied. And also the Willow Project in Alaska, which will be a massive oil/gas fracking drilling project up there in the pristine area of the northern Alaska. So I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty part of things, and you're not going to like it, most likely, because I haven't run into too many people that can handle this. But if you want to bug out, go ahead. This is to your own problem and fault, and if you disagree with what I'm saying, that's fine. The thing about democracy is it requires discussion as to what's happening, and people aren't willing to discuss anymore. It's either this way or that way, Biden or Trump in this country. No other discussions any other way. If someone goes over and interviews Putin, oh my God, he's a traitor to the country. This is part of democracy, getting ideas out, hearing different points of view about things, and everyone has good points of views and everyone has bad points of views as far as politician goes. Some have worse views than others. So you got the Ukraine-Russian war going on right now with NATO. Basically, it's a proxy war. What NATO and the United States is doing is using Ukrainians as cannon fodder to fight the Russians, and the Russians are trying to keep their paranoia down by attacking Ukraine and making sure they got a little bit of wiggle room, and people don't see that. I'm not siding with Russia, and what they did was wrong by attacking Ukraine. But I understand it because they were being hamstrung and choked by the NATO organizations that keep expanding to their border. Now they're all along the Russian border, and the Russian leadership has traditionally been totally paranoid of what's going on. And unless there's a buffer, which we agreed to back when the wall came down back in the day, back in the 80s, we agreed we weren't going to expand NATO towards their border, and we have. So they freaked out, and they kept telling you, we're freaking out, and then we didn't listen. And on purpose, I think. And Russians went out at the Ukraine because they're one of the last holdout nations not to join NATO. So they want to ensure that they don't join NATO. And it's no excuse. I mean, what they did is a war crime. And we'll talk about war crimes in a minute. So this is the solution for that. You want solutions? I'll give you solutions. No one will agree with it, and that's fine. But these are viable solutions. You leave Ukraine, it goes free, stays free, doesn't get attacked, Russia stays out of it. The Donbass area, eastern Ukraine, is declared independent, their own country. They're full of certain groups that were fighting in World War II for the other side, and evidently they just give them their independence and let them go about. They don't want to join back up with Ukraine for the most part anyway. Then you have Crimea, which is 70% Russia anyway, and Russia's taken over that. Just give it to Russia, let them have it, all right? And then let's get an era of peace going so we can get this climate change issue under control. You know, we aren't going to get anything under control as long as the world's fighting each other. And this is just a microcosm of what's going on around the world. Not going to talk about Peru, not going to talk about what's going on elsewhere in other countries. So you have the Gaza situation, Israel and Gaza. You know, they say it's a war. It's not a war. It's a slaughter fest. You know, when one guy has a machine gun or a gun and the other guy has tanks and bombs and airplanes, it's not a war. Okay, this is a slaughter fest, and there's very few fighters there. They are slaughtering a genocide, a murderous genocide, the Israelis are, committed upon the people of Gaza. And over 30,000 have died so far, close to it. It's at 29,000 something, but who cares? Right now, some of the wounded are going to die, so you're 30,000. Then you have 70,000 wounded, all right? And what is happening is Israel is going unencumbered. They're allowed to slaughter and murder and commit genocide at will. And why is that? Because the United States is backing them. At first, Joe Biden said, oh, just you have the right to the self-defense. I knew that was going to happen, and you knew it was going to happen, or I predicted on October, the next day after the thing happened in Israel, the attack by Hamas. I said it's going to be a slaughter fest. It's going to be a bloodbath, what's going on. And this is worse than what I could have imagined was happening. Let's see, Gaza is composed of Sunni Islamic people. You have Sunni and Shia. Well, Sunni is the dominant Muslim part of the religion by far in the Arab nations. And right now the Sunnis are composed of not only Palestinians, but Jordan, who's on the east border. You got Egypt on the west border. You got Syria on the northwest border of Israel. You got Saudi Arabia and other countries throughout the region. They're largely Sunni. And you have to ask yourself why Egypt and Jordan aren't getting involved in negotiations, or at least opening their borders and letting the Gazans out. They're trapped. The Gazans are trapped like a prison, and the Israelis have them up against the wall, and they're just shooting them and slaughtering them indiscriminately, destroying all their buildings and infrastructure. And this fact that the United States is associated with anyone that's doing this is unbelievable to me. You know, we fought against the Nazis, whatever, due to their indiscriminate killing of everyone and taking over. Well, this is an occupation and a slaughter fest that's going on, committed by the United States. And the United States yesterday was the only vote in favor of stopping or against stopping stopping a ceasefire, or having a ceasefire in Gaza at this point, committed by the Israelis. So the United States said, no, Israel can keep doing what they're doing. They said they have other plans. But in order to get peace, you have to stop. You have to negotiate. You have to talk to each other. So we're the only sole vote to stop the ceasefire. And because we're one of the big 5 nations of that in the United Nations, our vote superseded the other 13 votes that wanted an immediate ceasefire. The United Kingdom voted in abstention, didn't vote at all for it. So the United States is the pariah right now of the world, and we're heading downhill very quickly by siding in this type of situation and not forcing Israel to the table and saying, stop it already. So we're in cahoots. This is collusion with the murder and the genocide. Biden knows what he's doing. Trump knows what he's doing. The Democrats know what they're doing, and the Republicans know what they're doing. And if you're staying in these two parties, you are part of this murder. And I can't believe that people aren't bailing out of these two parties at this point. You hate Trump. You hate Biden, whichever party you're in, the opposite party, to the extent that you're willing to allow an ecocide go on throughout the whole world, this climate change issue, as well as a genocide issue going on in Gaza. Do not stay in your two parties. You are part of the problem. You're saying it's okay. You keep doing what you want to do, and I'm okay with it. I'll look the other way and won't do anything about it. That's disgusting. All right, I find this absolutely disgusting what people are doing as far as staying in those two parties. This is no different than the Nazis back in World War II. How did the German people go along with the Nazis? This is exactly the same situation. You wonder how millions of people go along with it. That's because they get brainwashed. They get convinced that the other side's the bad side. This side's the bad side. Those people are horrible. They're animals. And you should be ashamed of yourself looking in the mirror. Go to church on Sunday and sing, "You're holy, holy, holy." And, oh God, oh, I'm a Christian. And then you go along with these two murderous parties and these two people in charge, Biden and Trump, that'll just keep it going, make money, kill those people. Who cares? They're brown people. We don't care about them, right? So you call yourself Christians. Take a look in the mirror. Are you really a Christian or not? This is how you can get around it, all right? The United States right now could cut off all funding to Israel this very second. Say, you continue this, you're done. Cut off all funding. But I've seen clips of the congressmen and everyone being absolutely sick in their backing of this genocide. So you could cut off all funding, and this is the big one here. You don't even need to cut off funding. Well, you do, actually, as part of it. But this is the big one here. Create a military corridor straight into Gaza off the Mediterranean Ocean, a military corridor. You got aircraft carriers in there, you got destroyers, you got all sorts of stuff. You land troops in there. You create a buffer zone that imports food, water, and power to the Gazans, okay? And you tell the Israelis to back off and go away. And if they don't, you carpet bomb around the edge of the perimeter or the border of Gaza and cut off the military troops that are in Israel right now from committing more crimes of genocide. You cut off their supply lines, you cut off their food, you cut off whatever. Meanwhile, you supply food to the Gazans with our military. You say to the Israelis, if you mess with us, we're going to mess with you. All right? And this needs to stop. This is like a parent grabbing two kids by the collar, except one of the kids is just beating up on his little brother. You grab him by the collar and you say, cut it out, go back to your room. All right? And then the solution after that is a two-state solution, whether it involves the Gazans moving over to the Sinai Peninsula, and this is why I mentioned about the Sunnis. Egyptians are Sunnis. They could have a state of Palestinian state in the Gaza Strip, not in the Gaza Strip, in the Sinai Peninsula, or over in Jordan, the West Bank of the Jordan. And I know families have been in there for centuries, literally, the Palestinians in the West Bank. But they could move to the East Bank, where Jordan is, and set up a separate country there where they're left alone, and then the Israelis are fine. The settlers don't have to move, and they have the Palestinians have their own country, or two countries, one in the Sinai and one in East Bank of the Jordan, and everyone goes back to normal status. All right, then you say the Arab states say you leave those two groups alone now from now on. It's an easy solution. Doesn't require a whole lot. Our ambassador to the United Nations said no to the ceasefire. Again, if you stay in these two parties, Republicans and Democrats, and you're my friends and family, and people that I'm talking to on here, and people that I don't know, say this to your friends and family. If you stay in these two parties, Democrats or Republicans in the United States, you are colluding with this genocide. You are part of the murder. You're not stopping them. You're not doing anything. You're not saying anything. And silence is complicity at this point. You are part of the murderous situation. Get out of those two parties. Register independent. Register with the Green Party. I'll talk about the Green Party in 1 second. So you go to your church, sing your holy holies, and act like you're Christians. That works out real well. I'm sure the Gazans appreciate that. So here's your solution for the parties, okay, in the United States. You got your Republicans and your Democrats. The solution is to join with Jill Stein and the Green Party. Okay, the Green Party is the only one talking about Gaza and the genocide. The Green Party is the only one talking about Julian Assange and how the United States wants to deport him out of England or wherever the hell he is in some horrible prison there. He's a reporter that reported on all the issues going on in the United States, WikiLeaks, I think it was called. And they're going to prosecute him here. For what? I don't know. And I could tell you there's some female politician that ran for president back in the 2015-16s that is behind all this. And you little people in your little party over there are the reason behind it, why Julian Assange is going to be murdered when he comes over here. And then the Green Party is the only party talking about climate change on a consistent basis. The Democrats will talk about it once every 4 years. Woo! Good job. Thank you, as we all die. So the Green Party is the only one to talk about the ecocide. The Green Party is the only one to talk about the genocide. It's either a yes or no. Either you're part of the problem with staying in these two parties, Democrats and Republicans, or you're part of the solution. This is some platform that there is no in-between ramp or anything like that. Either you're on the platform or you're off the platform. If you're on the platform, you're voting against genocide and ecocide, and you're willing to stand up and talk about it and do something about it as far as your vote goes, your contributions, your thought process, talking with friends and family, or you're in favor of the genocide, ecocide. This is all part of climate change, that you cannot fix the climate change until you fix the political climate in this country and the world. So staying with Biden and Trump is a blessing for these murders, and it's the end for people, planet, and peace. It's a simple thing. So go to YouTube, check out Jill Stein. I think she's having a talk tonight if you go on her website, and she's having a Green Party rally online at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So there's just you've one chance to live this life, all right? This is your only chance you're going to get, as far as I know. People can believe in reincarnation, all this stuff, but this life is your only chance. And you must do the right thing. If not, what's the point of your life? What's the point of doing anything if you're not going to do the right thing? It's not the outcome that matters. You know, Jill Stein can't win, the Green Party can't win. Yeah, because you're saying that she can't win. If you all voted for Jill Stein, she would win. That's a simple solution. But anyways, it's your one chance to do the right thing in your life. Whether it's win or lose, you still do the right thing. All right, so this is my puppy, is Jenny, and she's getting really old, and this could be it. Jill Stein, Green Party, running for president. You want to know who to vote for in 2024. Green Party, president, 2024. Look for Green Party in your state. Catch you next week.